Welcome, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Tweedale, CEO and founder of Coco Coders. We teach children aged 6 to 14 how to code in weekly live online classes, preparing them for that technological world they're entering and ensuring they are future ready. Today, I'm super excited to be speaking with Amanda McLeod, one of our Coco Coders parents. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Please, could you start by just introducing yourself and your family to us?
Sure. So my name's Amanda and I have three kids. How old are they? 13, 11, and 5. And so a bit about me is I am an attorney, and my husband is a tech founder and entrepreneur. So we spend a lot of our time in the tech world. I've worked in our companies, both as an attorney and also in revenue management. And yeah, that's, I guess, a good start.
Amazing. Definitely a great background to understand this ever-changing world of technology and new businesses and all of that great stuff. And mother of 3, that's not an easy feat.
You would know.
Could you start out by maybe sharing a bit about your family's perspective on the role of technology in your children's education as well as their daily lives?
So I think it would probably make sense that given that we are a tech company, company founding family, that tech plays a reasonably large role in our life, and we seek to have it play a reasonably large role in our life. So we'd like to embrace technology for the kids, and we like to encourage them to embrace it and be curious about it, and also try to not just sort of, want to be a participant or a user of it, but also try to encourage them to want to understand how it's created and how it's pushing the world forward.
Definitely. That sort of leads into a bit of a question about screen time. And as parents, it's, always one of those things that we're trying to juggle. But how do you guys balance screen time concerns with the valuable skills you've been bringing up that your child can gain, but also, the kind of downsides of screen time? What's it like in your family?
Well, we're probably not we're probably not a family of limiting screen time. But I think technology is just the way the world is going. And I think for us, it's always been about trying to have the kids not just be passive users of technology, but have them be active participants in it and try to understand, and be considerate of where, or can at least be mindful of where it's taking the world, and try to have them trying to be active users and active participants in the whole process, not just end users of a game or end users of YouTube.
Yes.
So they obviously spend a lot of time outdoors, but I think we definitely embrace them being curious about technology and wanting to use it.
Amazing. So you mentioned that they spend time outdoors. That sort of leads me into thinking about how you choose the activities that they participate in outside of school. So how do you balance those kind of physical activities like sports outside of school and other educational extracurricular activities in their schedules?
A lot of it's child driven. So I think there is a balance, and we try to have them have activities in both realms. Our eldest was not sort of super musical and not sort of into that sort of more traditional, what I'd say, kind of theater music world, and saw what her father does and was very curious about coding and very curious. She was always more of a puzzles kid and that type of thing. So coding seemed like a natural fit for her to move into, and it embraces both, I guess, kind of some of those older skills of problem solving and sort of puzzles and games, but in a sort of modern way. So it's sort of, for us, a balance of trying to find what your child is interested in, and, using, I guess, or embracing new skills that are out there for them.
Yeah, amazing. And you mentioned, your eldest is in coding. How long has she been part of Coco Coders? And have you seen any changes or improvements in her kind of day-to-day since she started attending our classes?
We have. So Georgia's been in with Coco for 2 years now. And I think what I see is it brings a confidence in. So I guess obviously making it clear she is a girl, that I think girls are often viewed as, still sadly, as being perhaps not as included in the technology space.
Mhm.
And I think there's a real empowerment that comes for young girls in seeing that tech is not a boy dominate, or, you know, it's not exclusively for boys. It's something that girls are welcome in. They have a lot of place in.
Mhm.
And that confidence is something I see. I see independent thought and the capacity to look at a problem and know that you can solve it, and using technology to do that. I think that brings a lot of self-confidence for her, and that's been of huge benefit, especially when you're in male-dominated environments or classrooms. Being a girl who can actively participate in those conversations and feel included in them is a really, really incredible skill for teenage girls.
Definitely. And I think that was one of the most important things for me, as well as the rest of the Coco team, when founding Coco Coders, was thinking about that discrepancy between men and women in the tech industry, but also knowing that it's not just that we need to get girls into technology. We need to make sure that they understand how to participate in the same
Yes.
landscape as the boys. So having a company like Coco Coders, where over half of our students are girls, the important thing is that we also have the boys in there, because they both bring different skill sets to the table. And so I think it's a great piece of information that's come out. And I'm so happy that Georgia's, seeing that in her day-to-day life, coming out of participating in Coco Coders.
She is.
Does she give you any sort of feedback on how she likes the lessons, the Coco lessons, or what's kind of sentiment you've taken from her participation?
I think what she enjoys is she has a class with some friends, and that is always helpful. And I think she's enjoyed the games and learning how to, that the way that the coding is taught is in a way that allows them to see an immediate outcome, so that they're getting a sense of progression, which is always a huge help for kids. She sees how she's improved, and she's able to, they do their little, and I don't know the technology, but that's quite funny in and of itself. But, when they create their little games, or they create their little things, they're able to immediately see what's happened. And I think that gives them a sense of having achieved, and that things that they're learning. And I think she greatly appreciates that. The teachers are wonderful and very open. They're very kind. They're not, they're made to feel as though there's no wrong answer. I mean, obviously there are wrong answers, but at least they're not made to feel as though the mistake was silly. But, it's a very collaborative, welcoming, happy environment. And, that I think always makes learning a new skill feel a lot less overwhelming. And, that she gets to meet other, be with other kids is always just huge fun too.
Definitely. You mentioned in there, that there's no wrong answer. One of the things that I love about coding is that there are hundreds of different ways to get to that end solution, which I think is really special, because it sets it apart from math, where you have to do something in exactly the right way, or it's a 0 or 1. Yeah, it's right or wrong. Whereas computer science and coding makes it so much more accessible to try and fail and succeed in ways that you don't necessarily foresee, I guess. In that sense, have you seen any transferable skills or mindset changes in Georgia since, experiencing these lessons over the last couple of years?
I think I mentioned it before, and it's sort of coming back to just both the confidence that it brings, in terms of feeling comfortable that you can independently create solutions, that you have the skills to figure out the answers to a problem for yourself. And as with what you spoke to before, that there isn't necessarily just one way to get there, and that the fact that there are different ways to reach an answer is valuable in life, that you don't have to have the same answer as someone else to have answered a problem or to have created a solution. I think for girls, and so independence of thought, critical thinking, being able to look at a problem and kind of really figure out how you want to go about solving it, all of these skills, and a lot of them are not easily taught in other subjects. So I think this is a great skill. And I guess computer science I was a language major, but it is languages, and learning how to use those and learning how to think in different ways are skills that you can transfer into so many other parts of your life.
Definitely. It's sort of, hearing what you're saying about these transferable skills, but also where you and your family comes from, it kind of resonates with becoming an entrepreneur. It's a similar mindset in terms of skills that aren't necessarily taught in school. And so it's sort of setting the foundations for that. And I'm interested in your experience, particularly in, growing businesses alongside your husband, but were there, people in there, and a big discrepancy between men and women in that entrepreneurial world that you think could, be influenced by the addition of a coding education at a younger age?
I think I think especially with our age, there at the time of the people that we see in the entrepreneurial space, there's still probably a smaller number of women in that space than there are men. And certainly I think there's a lack of, there's a view of the tradition that this space is a male space. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that probably does come from women not having traditionally felt welcome or seeing a place for themselves in the computer science engineering world, and encouraging girls to see that this space and the myriad ways you can actually participate in this space. It doesn't just have to be that you code. Obviously it's the foundation, but that there's lots of launching pads for women that exist in this world, and getting them seeing this world and participating in it and feeling confident in it from the younger age is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, that's definitely rings true. So, you're coming from an entrepreneurial family. If you had to, pick a few things, how would you raise entrepreneurs if that was your end goal? And you might, go the opposite way, in that you don't want to raise them because you guys have experienced it. But what would some of the skills be for those future innovators that they might need for the future?
I think the biggest one is independence. You have to be able to feel confident that and it's confident independence, it's feeling that you're self-assured in that you can give things a go by yourself, and that you have the necessary underpinning of skills to do that. And that is both needing skills, but it's also needing confidence. They kind of go together. The other is you have to have problem-solving skills, and you have to be able to look at a problem, or look at something that's missing, or something that you see that isn't there. That's what entrepreneurship is. It's building something that wasn't there. And so you can't do that if you don't have skills that are rooted in problem solving and trying to create solutions. And I think that's where, computer science affords a lot of those skills in different ways.
Definitely. So what advice would you give to parents who might be considering enrolling their children in coding classes or Coco classes, given, the kind of mindset pieces that we've been talking about and the experience that Georges have? Any advice for parents?
I think you should do it. It's ultimately the worst thing is that perhaps it isn't for them in the long run, but we're always usually willing to give piano classes or, theater classes a go. I think sometimes maybe girls sometimes need a little bit of a nudge. I would say that it wasn't George's first thought, but she's really enjoyed it. And sometimes just really encouraging them and giving them a little nudge to go and do it, I think it really always pays off. And the worst case is maybe it turns out to be not for them, but the best case, and maybe what's more likely, is that they really enjoy it, and it ends up bringing them a really, really useful skill.
Amazing. Yes, one of the things that we kind of aim to achieve within the first 8 weeks is just to secure an interest in STEM and technology, because studies have shown that unless we secure that interest, specifically in girls before the key age of 14, it's very unlikely and difficult for students to then incorporate this into their future education, but also their future careers. So I think that, the idea of just giving it a go and potentially giving a little bit of a nudge to those apprehensive, girls potentially, is amazing advice. So just to wrap it up, and since we are here with Coco Coders, in your opinion, how do we stand out in providing meaningful and impactful coding lessons for children as a whole? What are your kind of key takeaways or favorite parts?
I think it's the flexibility of times, so you can find times that work for your schedule. That's always important when a lot of families have a lot of things. I think the quality of the teaching is a huge standout. That the teachers are really engaged. They're fun. They're very lovely people. They're not stuffy, which, I think kids can always be afraid of, that they're going to go in and have a teacher that's going to be unwelcoming or a little bit off-putting. That they get to be with other kids, always a big plus, and that they get to see, there's badges they get at the end of when they've made progressions, and they always notice those, that they see their progression. And I think it's a wonderful program, and Georgia's got a lot out of it.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. It's been lovely having you today, and we are so grateful that we have Georgia with us in our classes. Thank you for everything, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Elizabeth.